My toxic trait is thinking that true artists mix their own paint. But the problem is I don't. To make up for this artistic shortcoming, I had to do something about it. And luckily, I happen to have bought a bunch of beautiful pigments from Japan. But what's so special about pigment stores in Japan anyway? What kind of pigment exists in the world? Did I really have to go to Japan to buy pigment? How do you actually turn them into paint? If you've ever wondered about any of these things, you're definitely in the wrong place. Still, I'm taking you with me to Tokyo to discover everything about pigment, at least a few things, from choosing them, buying them, to making paint with them. I'm going to attempt to make my very own gouache with my own bare hands. How hard can it be, right? Before we rewind back to the pigment stores in Tokyo, I wanted to figure out exactly what I'm going to paint at the end using my future handmade gouache. At first, I thought about creating my own gouache brand, like a fake brand. Obviously, dream big, right? Since I'm traveling, sourcing everything is tricky. So instead, I'm thinking about making color swatch cards inspired by the wagashi. Wagashi is the name for the traditional Japanese dessert. And also, I happen to have bought some small sized paper from Japan, so I think it's going to be cool to use them to paint my colors. Even though I have a theme in mind, I'm not exactly sure how to pull everything together, and that's when Milanote comes in. So Milanote is an intuitive, super easy tool for organizing all your creative projects, and you can start using it for free right now for any kind of creative project that you want. Instead of getting stuck on ideas for days, you can save time and boost your creativity by organizing inspiration visually in Milanote. When you see everything clearly in one place, your brain naturally makes connection faster, so new ideas flow more effortlessly. You simply start a board either with a template or a blank canvas, and then you're ready to add your photos, your links, colors, files, to-do list, and anything you want all in one tidy space. I also love using the Milanote Image Saver extension, which lets me drop images straight into my board to sort instantly, or I can come back and organize them later as well. For my wagashi inspired paint swatches, first I have about 10 different pigments, right? So I placed my palette here on my Milanote board. Milanote will automatically assign a color name, but since I had specific pigments, I customized the names myself. Next, I realized that I needed to understand wagashi better, right? So I did some research and added images with quick notes about each wagashi type here. Then on the side, I also included additional wagashi designs to inspire my drawings later. I even linked reference materials on how wagashi are made. This is super helpful if you want to be able to revisit your sources later. Because I wanted the card to also have a distinctly Japanese feel, I collected the minimal, elegant packaging designs here. It was important for me to keep things simple so the pigment colors would stand out and not be swallowed by all other elements. So these inspirations here will be useful. Seeing everything side by side made it easier for me to sketch out initial concepts. Right here on the board, you can directly sketch using this tool. I sketched a swatch card idea that mimicked an individual wagashi box. I'm going to develop on that idea later. Finally, I started sketching the wagashi themselves as well, pairing each one with specific pigment at this stage. So if you want to give your creativity a boost, definitely check out the link in the description box below to create your free Milanote account and start creating your first board today for any kind of creative project that you want. Big thanks to Milanote for sponsoring today's video. Now we're ready to rewind back to Tokyo pigment stores. Meanwhile, I'm going to be working on my swatch card concept. The first time I came to Pigment Tokyo was back in November 2023. I remember that once I got inside, I was completely speechless at how beautiful the store was, and I still am today. The first thing that hits you is probably the pigment display wall with over 4,000 pigments to choose from. It doesn't feel like a simple store here. It literally feels like an art installation that happens to sell pigment. And also brushes. I have never seen a more beautiful brush display than the one here. The first time I was here, I even thought that this was just for display, like thousands of pigment jars stacked on a wall in such a seismically active country. It's quite intense. But on this second visit, I realized that you actually buy directly from those jars. Even better, they give you a tray and you just take whichever color that you want. That's when I also realized that each jar is secured with a little hook system, so it's super easy to take on and off and quite safe. And now, because I'm narrating this after the fact, I get to pretend I knew what I was doing all along, so let's talk pigments. There are several types of pigments in the world. You have natural pigments, those include mineral pigments like ochre, cinnabar, and also plant-based ones like chlorophyll and indigo, and even animal-based ones like mollusk purple or sepia from cuttlefish. Then there are synthetic pigments which can be organic like phthalocyanin blue or inorganic like cadmium colors. You also have more niche categories like metallic, phosphorescent, and other man-made effects. At Pigment Tokyo, you'll find all of these, including earth pigments, which are high-quality soil-based pigments sourced from all around the world. Then there's my favorite discovery, the suihi pigment. This type of pigment is specific to Japan. You can only get them here. They're made by purifying with water and then drying, and they're often used for backgrounds because they have excellent light stability and apply super evenly on a surface. Each color is sold in 15-gram portions, so the price you see is for 15 grams. Somehow, a lot of the pigments I love were also very expensive, especially the light and pale pastel ones. I seriously thought about getting them, but considering the risk of completely messing up the final paint, I figured next time, if I survive the paint making process. There were some different items in the shop this time compared to last year, which is good because I didn't know whether I would find something new. In terms of pigments, I spent a lot more time inside the shop than I expected trying to compose my own palette because I didn't want to buy too many pigments. They are costly, so I really tried to stay within like a reasonable budget. Turns out a lot of the colors that I love were really expensive. Like some of them were like 4,000 yen per 15 grams. And tomorrow I'm going to another shop that is also specialized in Japanese pigments. I'm going to complete the palette that I have today with some more colors. After the ultra-modern high-design experience of Pigment Tokyo, Kinkaido will feel like stepping into a completely different world, like day and night, and not just because I was at Pigment when it was dark, okay? The closest subway station is Nezu Station on the Chiyoda line. The area itself is lovely, lined with small traditional shops, mostly visited by locals, I feel. I was there on a beautiful sunny morning and it was just really, really lovely to walk there. There's even a peaceful shrine just around the corner, which adds a nice touch to the whole more traditional Tokyo exploration. This is actually one of my favorite things about hunting for art stores. I always end up discovering areas I would not have visited otherwise. The shop has that warm retro Japan kind of atmosphere. It's definitely smaller and cozier than Pigment Tokyo, but still packed with hundreds of pigments to choose from. Most of the pigments here are Japanese and they're a little more affordable compared to Pigment Tokyo. Pigment wasn't crazy expensive either. The store may look fancy, but you can definitely treat yourself without blowing your entire savings, which is honestly comforting considering the amount of mistakes I was about to make. The way the pigments are labeled and displayed here feels similar in function but more DIY, reflecting that charming family run business vibe. I could only understand a few things, but I did try to chat with the grandpa running the store about where I'm from and what I'm doing in Japan. Hopefully, I didn't end up insulting anyone. And then I started picking colors again, completely based on personal preference and vibes. was my pigment buying experience. The difference between the pigment store and the Kinkaido store, well, obviously you could see the second one was a lot more traditional and smaller. It's in a more local residential area compared to pigment, which is more modern and had a lot more options. I enjoyed the experience in both stores because they were obviously very different. This small store, Kinkaido, offers cheaper options compared to pigments, so to complete your palette, it's a nice way to kind of mitigate the budget and make it more reasonable for you. I hope you enjoyed going pigment shopping with me. I will see you when I make the pigment, and I hope I will be at least a little bit successful in that. We're back home now and it's time to make some paint. I'm honestly a little nervous. I'm using the recipe from Artful Badgering. I'm going to put the link to her video in the description box. What you will need basically, well, first, the pigment, this little pillar and mortar pigment miller, chalk powder from Cornelius and Son that I bought in London, gum arabic in liquid so I don't need to like rehydrate it, a scale. This is the scale that I use for coffee, so I wrapped it in saran wrap, mixing knives, little spoons, and of course the most important thing, face mask, because you don't want to be breathing in the pigment. That's dangerous. A little bit of water. I also bought these empty tubes from Jackson's Art. Let's take a look at all the colors that I have. These one are from Kinkaido. I have a very cute red. I don't know how to call this one. It's just red, basically the kanji. Reddish purple, a very bright neon orange, a very pale bluish green, one baby pink, two baby blue, coral, some kind of olive green, minty blue, terracotta kind of brown, very bright purple, a mineral blue. A mineral blue. I'm nervous to work with this because it's a little shiny. Then of course I have some white just to be able to tone down if I want to. And then I put the chalk here. To make gouache, the process is fairly easy. Basically what you need to do is place the pigment in a mound on a glass surface, add some gum arabic and start mixing. After that, you add a little bit of water and then a small amount of chalk to make the paint more opaque instead of translucent, which is the main characteristic of gouache. You can keep adjusting the amount of liquid depending on the texture. We're aiming for something creamy and thick, so it's really quite intuitive once you get going. I started with the lead-free mineral pigment called Gosu 6. It's a very beautiful midnight blue color that I really love. I added gum arabic and began mixing, and almost immediately after I made my first mistake. I added chalk to this mineral pigment, which turned out to be a bad idea. This particular pigment is very sandy and it didn't mix well with the chalk at all. No matter how much I worked, the mixture stayed grainy and the color completely lost its midnight blue intensity. In hindsight, it probably would have been better to just use gum and water and skip the chalk entirely for this one. I put too much chalk in it and it didn't mix well and the color turned out to be paler than I intended. Still, I have some left. I could make more paint with this for sure. Next, I moved on to Menomatsu 11, a pigment that's a mix of artificial and mineral. The texture was much smoother and easier to build compared to the first one. That said, the final result felt a little gluey. I think I may have added too much gum arabic. We'll see the verdict in a few days. I'm gaining confidence. Then I tried Kikusa Green, which is a suihi pigment, and the neon orange from Kinkaido. Both were way easier to work with, probably because they naturally adhere better and also because I was starting to get the hang of the process. After that, I moved on to the baby blue from Kinkaido and realized I had really gone overboard with the gum arabic. I'm running out of the gum arabic already. I kept going and made a few more paints, a red, a cold peachy pink, and finally Akamurasaki purple from Pigment Tokyo, which is also a Suihi pigment and ended up being probably my favorite mix. This purple is awesome. It's so pretty in real life. I don't know, well, on camera it's quite nice too, but in real life it's super pretty. By then, I was running out of gum arabic, so I started using less and less of it with the remaining pigments. In the end, I managed to make 9 gouache paints because that's all the gum arabic I had left. I packed each one in empty paint tubes I bought from Jackson's Art, and I'm going to let them sit for a few days to see if they stay usable. All the gouache paints that I made are in this box. I deliberately waited for a few days before painting with them because I wanted to see how they would endure the test of time. It would have been too easy to paint with the paint right away, right? Because they didn't even have time to settle or to be ruined. So now let's go to the swatches. Starting with the red, I got a lot of paint out of the pigment, so the tube bursted a little when I opened it for the first time. The texture was fine, a little sticky, but the color remained bright and the texture overall usable. I got less paint out of the neon orange pigment, but this paint also remained usable and also a little sticky. Then the Suihi Kikusa green was also a success. The color was bright and the paint only a little translucent. Then the Akamurasaki purple was the best out of the lot. It had less gum and it became the least translucent gouache out of the lot. Now to the worst part, the colors that didn't work well at all. Starting with the baby blue, which had hardened in the tube, so only the liquid came out. I couldn't say it was much better for the Coral Menomatsu 11 either. It was actually even worse. The gouache became really hard inside the tube as well. The cool peach survived a little better, but was farting gum a little bit. And as you can see, I had to force the brush quite a lot to be able to spray the paint. Then, unsurprisingly, none of the mineral pigment has worked. There was the midnight blue and a sandy color pigment that I forgot to film, but both paints were good for the trash, so we missed nothing here. Really disgusting. Here are the few prototypes that I created inspired by my earlier Millenode board. At first, I imagined something that would look like a 3D mini wagashi box, but when I drafted this, the main color was swallowed by the other details around it. So I made a few more variations and ended up with this one. It is inspired by negative space that I saw on the board. I made like a few tests on it. Out of all the 9 gouache paint that I made, only 7 ended up being usable, so that include our 2 mineral pigment that I had. Only 4 being completely usable. And so the 4 that ended up being completely usable, though a little bit sticky, are these ones. The red, the neon orange, the Kikusa green, and the Suihi purple. They were all pretty fairly usable. Like, they were definitely a little bit sticky, but it's a paint I would definitely keep using in my daily life. I paired the red with the yokan, the orange with the taiyaki, the green with the dango, and then the purple with the higashi. It's called higashi. Then the other 3 that were a little bit usable but not so much. I used the baby blue with the warabi, cool peachy pinks with the manju, and the other coral pink with the mochi, sakura mochi. Obviously, the texture is interesting. It feels like using varnish to create texture, but it's definitely not a quality that you would look for in a paint that you buy from the store, right? Like this would definitely be defect. So from that standpoint, it's a fail. And I'm sure that this one and this one will completely end up being ruined in a few days because the pigments were quite hard in the tube. This wasn't a total epic failure, even though it wasn't either a success. I learned a lot, definitely. This is one less thing I'm scared of today. I'm not intimidated by making paint anymore. Am I good at it? Not really, not yet, but I'd definitely do it again. And next time with a lot less gum arabic. A lot less. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to see me try new artistic challenge, please let me know in the comments. I think that would be really fun. In the meantime, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if that's not already the case. See you in my next video. Bye bye.